what was the comparison?
I don't
The
understand
men in
your
the war
question.
were the life savings because the men in the war were getting war deprived.
He's giving a scalability, right? So like an order of operations to scalability. If I steal a penny from you, it's going to affect you less than if I steal $5 from you. It's going to affect you less than if I steal 100. It's going to affect you less than if I steal 1,000, et cetera, right? So on a scale of how much you've been victimized, you would say if somebody stole $5 from you, it would victimize you less than if they stole your entire life savings. So he's saying the ultimate thing here, though, is your life. At the end of the day, that is
So your life. So
ultimate
meaning that the man,
Yeah,
the
that's the
hypothetical
ultimate
man in
value
war
that
has
you
passed
have,
away.
yeah.
Meaning the hypothetical man in war has passed away. Your life. Meaning the hypothetical
life,
man in war has passed away. Right.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I think the other person is a bigger victim because the man has passed away. He's no longer experiencing mental trauma. The man has passed away. He experienced death, which obviously is horrible. But now the people at home, the women,
yeah, they have to carry.
They are carrying
on.
on.
They have to carry on with that.
So do you think
and they have
that,
to go
okay,
teach
so
their
let's kind
children
of-
and their
let's
so
kind
that's
of
why I'm
examine
saying
that. So
this
you
question is situational because
So then, by this logic, then you think it's better to be dead than be alive with trauma?
Sometimes.
honestly, yeah.
And are
really just
all of you
depends.
traumatized?
Are all of us traumatized?
Like in general?
So are you? Haven't you experienced trauma? Isn't psychological
every
trauma
person
pretty much
has,
all of you?
yeah.
And aren't you living with trauma? Then why aren't you unaliving?
Because maybe it's not that deep.
It's situational. Like, I don't know why you can't understand that it's
Yeah,
situational.
I agree. It's situational. But what I'm saying to you is that it's beyond obvious to me that people would much rather live with trauma than be dead. That seems obvious.
I mean,
to
a lot of
me.
people
Depends
kill
on the
themselves.
trauma.
No,
Depends
it's
on
not because a lot of people
Wouldn't
kill
you say-
themselves
wouldn't
every
you say
year.
it's
So
beyond
a lot of
obvious
people-
especially
considering how many
Americans,
pass
people
away.
choose to live with trauma rather than unaliving?
Actually, a lot of people pass away from self-inflicted injuries because
Very
of the
few.
trauma they've been
a
through.
lot of people
lot.
kill themselves,
No, not
especially
a
in
lot.
A lot
America.
of people
more,
die to
a whole
suicide.
lot more people live with trauma than unalive themselves
But a
from trauma.
lot still unalive
Wait.
themselves
But can
because of that.
like what statistic like can you pull that out of and say like these people live with trauma? Like you're just saying.
So
stuff.
therefore,
Like,
can you just
anybody can
like
say
say that
I'm
it's
just saying,
situational?
okay, I'm just
like
saying,
I don't know
so
why.
let's just see
Well,
if
'cause
we
you
can
guys are being
agree
very
if it's obvious or
statistical,
not.
so-
You guys
How
are
many
looking at this
women
black
as a
and white.
percentage, as a percentage, do you think live with significant trauma? Over 20%?
Yes.
If it's over, do you think that women are unaliving themselves at a rate of 20%?
I mean, I don't know the percentage,
know.
but I know that
You don't
every
know
year
if
it goes
women
up.
are unaliving
People want to
themselves
kill
at a rate
themselves
of
every year it goes
20%?
up,
No, they're not.
which means people are dealing with a lot of trauma and they don't want to live with
If
it.
you lost 20% of a population in a war, it would be the biggest bloodbath known to man. 20% is astronomical. We're talking about astronomical numbers. There's no way, it should be completely obvious to you that there's no fucking way 20% of women unalive themselves due to trauma. That's just insane.
I didn't say that.
There's no way you
You're
could
the
ever
one who
believe
no
said
one
that.
said that.
You're the one who
Like,
brought
look
up
it up.
20%.
yeah,
Like,
I don't know
I-
what
no,
percentage.
no,
I know that.
We didn't know what you meant by the whole
Suicide is very
20%.
high in America, and I know every year.
Bro, you're
it
not listening to the
climbs.
logic, right? You talk more than you listen, and yet I've been sitting here listening, not talking. So the thing is what I asked specifically was this question. Do you think that more women unalive themselves due to trauma or live with the trauma? And she's like, well, I don't know. Okay, well, if that's the case, do you think that at least more than 20% of women experience significant trauma? Yes. Are they unaliving themselves? No, they're not.
Well,
They're
however
not.
big
Not-
it is,
not
But
at
you're
those
not.
rates.
No,
They're
you're
even
not. No,
close.
because I don't feel like what you're saying is like real statistics. You're just throwing numbers out and saying, is that 20%
just
of women who
testing the
experience
logic.
20% of women who experience high trauma, are they unaliving themselves? A lot of them might be. Who, like, can you tell me?
How many
like,
do you
can you
think
tell
are?
me? Because I can't tell you. Huh?
Well, how many do you think are? So
I don't
out of-
know.
let's say you have. Let's just do
Somebody
it easy.
make-
Let's just do it easy. If you have 30 women who are experiencing severe trauma, do you think 15 of them are going to unalive
I
themselves?
think no, not 15, but 3.
Do you think
probably
10?
3 out of 30. Probably
Maybe
that's
like
10%.
Three out of 30?
3.
whatever
That's a
you
lot.
look up is going to be like too big of a statistic anyway. Like I don't think it matters if it's like 5% or 20%. It's a lot. It's bad. Like it's too many. One is too many. An attempt is too many. So no matter, it doesn't even matter that it's like 20%. It's too much. Like, I don't even
Yeah,
know.
but
Like,
the
look it
point
up.
of the question is to make the determination as to whether people would rather, if it's obvious that people would rather live with trauma rather than not. It seems that that would be self-obvious to everybody in existence, considering that most people, the overwhelming majority, the vast, vast majority of all of humanity, does not unalive themselves, even though many, many, many of them experience massive trauma. They're not unaliving themselves.
But lots of
So
them
I
are
don't-
still suffering horribly.
But do the
Yeah,
percentage
they
on
could. They
that.
could be
People who are
suffering, but if they're making the choice not to
suffering
unalive
massively, how
themselves,
many
then it
what's
seems
the
that they
percentage of
consider
them that
that to be
killing
the
themselves?
superior position,
My bad.
right? It seems that they prefer to be alive. That seems
He's
to be the
arguing
superior
your
position.
guys' statement that it's better to live with trauma than die. Or that it's worse to
I
live with
think-
trauma than die.
I think
He's
it's
arguing that.
situational.
I think every
That's
person
a
has
statement that
trauma.
you guys made.
I don't think every person has serious trauma. Now, what one person might consider serious,
I
is
think just because
very
somebody
opinion
chooses
We're
to stay
subjective.
alive
Very
throughout their
subjective.
trauma doesn't mean
But to
that
people
they
who
are
are
happy about
experiencing
that.
mass trauma, like very high levels of stress and trauma, and are very not well in their head, like mentally disturbed, how many of these people are unaliving themselves? Probably a decent, probably a decent percentage of them.
yes, but
Now,
it
I'm
is-
not saying 50%, maybe 3, 4, 5 to 10% might be, and that's still.
Okay,
it's-
you know what? Let me just ask this in the most
So
basic
sure,
way
yeah,
possible.
then-
I've been
then- no,
thinking
no,
about
then your-
how
then
I
your
can
point
ask
is,
this
yeah,
in a
you're
way that
correct.
you guys
Would you
would
rather
just
live with trauma? Yeah, because-
Intuitively, hang on. Let me just ask this in a way all of you would just intuitively kind of understand. Do you think if you went to most people, men and women, and you asked them this question, if you push button A, you're going to have experience serious trauma, and if you push button B, you're going to die. Which button do you think they would push?
Starting with you, go ahead.
I feel like it depends on the person.
Do you want to get shot or do you want to get raped? That's the question.
That's not the question.
Like,
That's not what I
would you
said.
Yeah, no, it actually is the
All
Would
sorts
you
of
rather
different
die
trauma.
or would you
I'm just
rather be
saying,
raped?
it
Like,
it
that's the
actually is the
question.
question.
It depends on the type of
It
trauma.
literally
That's not
is the
my
question.
It's
That's
situational.
not
once again.
my question.
But
My
that's trauma.
question was,
Crazy
Well,
trauma
it's
versus
the same
dying. What would
Button
you
A,
rather choose? Pick
That's not my question. Stop. Here's the question again. Don't rephrase the question.
No, it's like comparing apples to
Okay?
oranges.
The question is, button A, you experience significant trauma. Button B, you die on the spot.
But he
A lightning bolt shoots out of the sky and you die. Those are your two options. Do you think most people would choose button A or button B?
I think people would choose the trauma, but I think would they regret that? They might. I think a high percentage might.
Why do you think they would choose the trauma?
Because when you're after you have dealt with the trauma, now I'm living with this crazy wild shit when I could have just died. You might at that point
No. My
decide
question
it was.
why do you think they
I
would
should've
choose
chose to just die?
the trauma?
'cause Screw
Why do you
living
think
with
they
this
would
trauma.
choose the trauma?
Huh? Because they don't
Why do you
know.
think
I
they
mean,
would choose it?
unless they know what the trauma is, like if the like I said, if it's like, okay, what's the choice? Like I die or I get raped. Like
It's situational.
$200.
Because the trauma could.
Why does it always seem to me they put the dumbest and retarded girls at the end of the table?
So the trauma could be,
Thank you,
okay,
Puppet. All right, thank you,
you've
Hunter.
dealt with, I don't know, like a little bit of whatever the fuck, like being made fun of in second grade, right? Like you'd probably prefer to
I'm
live.
more educated
rough.
than most of y'all.
said seriously.
Wow.
If the
Second grade was
trauma,
rough.
if the trauma is emotional trauma, I'd press the trauma button. If it's medical trauma, I'm pressing the death button.
You raising your hand over here. You haven't spoken much.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, it depends, because, I mean, everyone, everyone's trauma is valid, but, like, I mean, if I were to have these two buttons in front of my face, I don't know, I don't know what would happen after death, but I would
What
choose
medical
trauma. I
do
would
you
choose trauma.
experience if your husband dies at war?
What medical MS?
What medical trauma are you experiencing? What are you talking about? It would all be psychological,
Oh, all
right?
psychological. Okay, yeah, psychological.
Yeah, it would all be
okay.
psychological. So the
Okay,
thing is
yeah.
that when we're talking about trauma here in this context, we're talking
Okay.
about severe psychological trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather push? Do you think most people would choose button A or button B? Do you think intuitively most people would push button A or button B? B is death. A is psychological trauma.
A.
They would definitely choose A.
Nope,
But
not
does
Then
mean
that
they'd
would
be happy
should give
with
you
that?
some self-obvious, some self-apparent evidence that the death portion for most people is the non-preferable option. That's just basic logical demonstration. If intuitively you think almost
have a
everybody
question.
would
Can I ask you a
choose
question?
the button to not die, then it seems self-obvious that people would rather be traumatized than dead. It seems obvious, right?
So if you were like a little kid, right, like back in like Nazi Germany or Jewish, and you had the option before Hitler came in, you had the option to
What is
either.
Godwin's law? Okay, let's use any analogy
No.
besides,
So you could go through all
Nazis.
this trauma, right? You could go get sent to an extermination camp, be severely
No, we're not going to get into
abused.
that. Use
Yeah,
any
no.
analogy but
Listen,
that.
listen.
Use
Stop.
any analogy
Use a
but that
different
one.
analogy.
I have an analogy. You get in a
It's
car
because
accident.
it's because it's listen.
No,
it's not
because
because
I'm gonna ask, would you
I don't
rather
mind
die?
the analogy.
Stop.
Listen,
Regardless
I
of
don't mind the
emotional trauma.
analogy. The terms of service
If
for
you knew what
for
it
the
was.
platform we're on, they mind the analogy.
Had you
So
guys been
just
on
use any
time
other
today,
analogy.
had you guys been on time today, we would have been able to have gone through the entire pre-show and have given you the instructions about what to avoid. Go ahead.
Here's an analogy. Let's say you leave here tonight and you get in a terrible car accident and you wake up in the hospital and you've broken legs, you have severe damage, medical to your body and it's psychological. Are you going to say, I wish I would have died?
I
Because
mean,
that's-
I feel like that's not.
You would be grateful
That's
to
not
be
extra
alive.
that's
Yes, it-
traumatic,
I would
but
wanna
it's
live
not
with
like to the extreme of what a somebody could deal with in trauma. So, like going and getting in a car accident is trauma, yes, but that
Yeah,
doesn't
you lost
mean.
a loved
Hold
one
on.
in war. That's your trauma.
Both your legs are amputated from this accident. But you're still grateful to be alive.
Oh,
It's
here.
like-
So here, let's just make it even simpler. Button A is you experience all of the trauma a person would experience losing a loved one in war, or button B, you die instantly. Which button do you think most people would push? Button A or button B?
Depends on the person. It's situational.
All right.
Most people. I'm just asking for most people. Which button do you think most people would push?
I just don't think
Doc
that's
Venabilly donated
something you can
$200.
ask.
Rate of major depression,
Ask
maker
it.
of emotional trauma, in US Fem is 26% per 100K. Rate of self-delete is 5% per 100K for Fem.
Yeah.
Most people rather live with severe adversity than death. End idiocy now.
Yeah, I'm not
Andrew,
disagreeing.
may I ask you why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bro, it's
May I
obviously
ask you
fake.
why?
Hold on.
Final Wave Feminism donated $200. 10 plus years interviewing thousands of women. To reach the same conclusion as the most intelligent, respected theologians, philosophers, etc., women are children. They require top-down guidance.
Okay. May I ask a question?
Thank you, Final Wave Feminism.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your question.
Why is it so black and white to you? Why can't you understand that there's layers to things and that people are different and it can't just be one or the other? Like every
agree.
single person is different. One person may be okay with living with.
I agree.
Okay, so then why are you trying to argue that with us?
Because
we're all saying both.
So I'm going to explain. So I can grant this to you and say every single human being is different with different preferences. Everything from whether or not they like pineapple on pizza or pepperoni, right? All the way down to the little micro nuances. However, there seems to be shared intuitions that most people have that you would agree that we have, right? So here's a good example of a shared intuition. Taking people's shit that they don't want you to take, they don't like that. That seems to be a shared intuition all over the world. For instance, is there anybody at this table who prefers that people take their stuff away from them? Anybody? Show of hands. A single person who prefers? No, not a single one. Seems like that's a shared intuition, even though all of you have totally different preferences about all sorts of things. So if there's that shared intuition, why shouldn't I think that there could be other shared intuitions like trauma, people wanting to live with trauma rather than death, which could be self-obvious just based on the fact that you think most people would push button A or button B. That seems like now we're getting into, well, we share some sort of intuition here, right?
I hear what you're saying. I really do. But I just.
No, well, I'm glad that you hear it. I'm actually looking for a counter argument.
If you let me spoke. If
Go
you let
ahead.
me speak.
Go ahead.
If you let me speak, I could give you that. I hear
Go
what
ahead.
you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yes, there's shared intuitions. Obviously, people don't want their shit taken, right? But not everybody is the same.
Yeah, but
So-
we've already established that.
So then what are you trying to say?
Dude, can we establish right now that nobody in the room with
Charlie
you is the same
Tanner
as you?
donated
But that's so much different than somebody
Ryan,
saying that
read
they'd
the book I
rather
put in the
live
chat.
with trauma.
Today's Father's Day. My sister has cancer. I had
Sorry
brain
to hear that, man.
surgery. My brother is disabled. My mother is sick. I work 3 jobs. All of you, please carry your cross.
Amen.
Thank you for the 200.
Yeah,
But
thank
yeah,
you,
so,
Charlie.
so back to
Thank
this
you, Charlie.
just real quick. You agree that everybody in this room is totally different from each other, right down to their preferences. Even the way that you just took a drink of that drink that you have, water, whatever it is going to be different than how the gal next to you drinks that cup of water.
Yeah.
We're going to agree it's totally layered and nuanced all the way down. But that doesn't mean that we don't share some intuitions which make us human beings. And a seeming intuition I can point to right now
Yeah.
is you don't want your stuff taken from you. That is
So
yours.
then, if you
Everyone
could-
in that room agreed. Now,
Yeah.
hang on. Wouldn't you agree that almost nobody in the whole world wants you to take their stuff away from them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then that's a shared intuition.
It is
so
a
what's
shared
wrong with this
intuition.
analogy of a shared intuition that people would rather be alive with trauma than dead? That seems like a shared intuition.
Well, you're saying it seems like, and you're asking for facts from us, but you're not giving us
I'm just
facts
asking
either.
you what it seems like. I'm not even asking you for a fact. I'm just asking you, what does your intuition say most people would do in this situation? Push button A
Personally,
or button B?
I think it depends. I think it's situational, and I think it depends on the person.
Okay, but if what would you say to this then? Button A, your shit is taken away from you. Button B, your stuff is not taken away from you.
I would
Which
prefer
button
my
would they
shit to
push?
not be taken away from me.
You're right. So intuitively, everything which you have observed around you your entire life informs you intuitively that that's what they would push. But you didn't need any data. You needed no data. You needed no
You asked
anything to
me,
come.
that
Hang
was-
on, stop. I'm almost done. I'm going to
That
let you
was my
counter. I
opinion.
promise I'm going to let you counter. Hang on. You didn't need a single shred of data to come to that intuitively. You didn't need it. Right?
That I said I would prefer my shit not to be taken?
No. That you think that you would prefer. You think everybody would push the button for the most part that they didn't want their stuff taken, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think most people don't want their shit taken.
Right. So you can arrive to these intuitive conclusions absent any data at all, just based on observation.
Yeah. But my
Yeah, so
intuitive
that would be an
conclusion.
obvious
Hey, when he's
observation.
talking and you talk, he can't hear you.
But my intuitive conclusion about your question whether people would rather live with trauma or, die, I'm saying I don't know. On that one, I'm saying I don't know. You asked me my intuitive conclusion about if I'd want my shit taken or not. I'm saying personally I'd rather not have my shit taken.
Wait, can you just?
Yeah. So I can agree with you that you may not know the answer precisely. You might say, well, I'm not sure this or that. But then when I kind of counter with, then why aren't people who experience severe trauma unaliving themselves at this kind of massive rate? You would think that if the preference was the other direction, that they would be doing that, and they're not. So it seems intuitive, right?
I get what you're saying, but I'm also not saying that the suffering is equal
All right.
to the
I'm
counter
not saying
argument.
it is either.
That's my point. I feel like for certain people the suffering is equal to death. And so that's why I'm saying it's situational.
I agree. For certain people,
It
I'm sure it
depends
is.
on the person.
And for
okay,
certain people, I'm
great.
sure that's true.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
not
but that
black
has
and
nothing
white.
to do with the argument, though.
It's not black and white. You're asking me about my shit being taken or it not being taken. I'm saying I'd rather not have my shit taken. I feel like most people would rather not.
No,
have
you're
their-
not. You're saying that most people, you think most
I
people
just said
would
that.
prefer not to have their
I literally
stuff
just
taken,
said
right?
that. I think most people would rather
Yeah.
not have their shit taken. But for this other
Yeah.
argument, I'm saying I don't know.
All right, you guys
Yeah,
are kind
right.
of going in circles.
Okay, so I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I got this right. You cannot come to an intuitive conclusion that you think most people would prefer death over trauma. I just
I
want to make
think
sure we got that on record.
It
You're not
depends. It depends on the person.
sure. I said most people.
It depends on the person.
Okay, so you're not sure.
I'm
So
not
again,
gonna
then-
give you
so
the
then if
answer
that's
that
the
you
case,
want. It
then you're
depends on
not
the
sure
person.
that most people wouldn't choose death.
It depends on the person.
And
yeah, I know,
she's
but
not gonna.
okay, but
I'm
it
not
can't.
gonna give you the answer
It
that
can't-
you
it
want,
can't.
Andrew.
Because it's most, right?
I'm really not.
If you're not
it
sure,
depends.
then what you're saying,
Perfectly
if you
okay.
answer-
Andrew, I'm
listen-
not.
yeah,
listen to me. I'm not gonna give you the answer that you want. It depends
You don't
on
need
the
to.
person.
You can just sit there and be quiet while I explain it. That's fine too.
Okay, great.
So the thing is that here's your logical extension so that you understand it. Why you look away, but you're still going to hear me because you have to, right? You need to understand this. The logical extension of you saying it depends on the person. When I ask you, what do you think most people would do? You say, I don't know. That's what you're saying. I don't know. which means the logical entailment of that is you don't know if most people would choose death or trauma. That's the extension.
Yeah, and it literally roots back to all of us saying both men and women.
I got to move it on, Andrew. I
Okay.
got to move it on.